Hey there, y'all. Hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of Real Women, Real Talk, where we are giving you a sneak peek into our Real Women Rock conversations and sister circles. I am Trenace Richardson, and I am the founder of Real Women, and I am joined by...
Hello, everybody. I am the Shavon Carter, and I am a facilitator for Real Women.
And we are so happy to be with y'all in this new year of 2025. OMG. So just so y'all know, we are on the cusp of it still, but we celebrating with y'all because by the time y'all see this, it will be 2025. And so we're just going to jump in because we have a lot to share with you. We do want you to know about who we are and what we do, and we'll be sharing that with you throughout the episode. You can always go to realwomenrock.org to find out more about us. We would love for you to visit us there and just click on all the clicks to find out more about us. But until we talk about it, we just first want to start with our first segment, which is our Real Talk. And we do want to know how you're doing. So feel free to contemplate kind of what's going on with you right now while we talk to each other for a second. Hey, Shavon, how you doing? Real talk.
Hey,
What's
girl.
going on with you?
Listen, I'm doing really good. I am feeling refreshed and relaxed and ready for this new year. So yeah, I'm in a good space today.
Good.
How are
I
you?
just, I have to say, I'm feeling really good. I'm energized. We've
Mhm,
had some real women meetings recently that have allowed me to feel like vision is cast and we got
mhm,
work to do. So
mhm.
I'm excited about that. I'm excited about my life personally. Got some things planned that I love to do. And so I'm excited about that. But I wanted to ask you something, and I still
Okay.
have a real talk question. But
Mhm.
speaking of the new year, I just recently texted you this, and I was like, I'm gonna wait for the podcast.
Okay.
So you spent the new year last year in Jamaica on a solo trip,
Yes.
and we are sisters, so we are spending New Year's together this year. I'm so excited! I'm so excited!
Me
I'm so
too.
So by the time this airs, we will have done the things, and we'll
Yeah.
talk about them later.
Mhm.
But how did spending the year, or did the year spending the New Year's Eve going into the new year alone, did
Mhm.
that shape anything about your 2024?
I don't know that it shaped my 2024. I think it was just a moment in time
Mm,
where in that moment that's what I desired to do.
okay,
Um so it was one of those things, just kind of living in the moment and going with what I felt as opposed to it having a whole lot of significance and meaning for me. I
gotcha.
think at that time it was just like, I want to do something different. And, I go from one extreme to another. So I think it was just me living in my extremes and like just go outside of the country and do something. But when I look back on it now, it just felt like a moment in time. Yeah, I don't think
Okay.
it shaped anything for me as it relates to the rest of the year. Yeah.
It also speaks to your spontaneity,
Mhm.
yeah, that
Yeah,
your courage, you're not afraid to just do it, whatever it feels like,
exactly.
yeah, and learn some lessons from it. So I love that.
And it's so
Um,
funny because I felt so deeply about it during that
mhm.
time, but now I'm like, I don't have to do that again.
One and done.
One and
You
done for
said.
me. Like it's not something that I'm like, oh my God, okay, so now I'm gonna be a solo traveler. Yeah, no, I want to be with other people. So I'm excited that this year will be different.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah.
we're gonna have a good time.
Yes.
And just speaking to the newness of things, I know the last episode we talked a little bit more about 2024, 2025.
Mhm.
But I did want to mention this because I made a commitment in a couple of different ways to myself. And I've done this in the past before. But this one I haven't done in a long time,
Mhm.
unless it is, I'm going to give myself grace for special occasions where I feel like I want to do it differently.
Mhm.
But because I have so many goals, both financially as well as just becoming more, um, living a more simple life, I am going to do my own hair all year long.
Are you? All
I
right.
am. And
Ooh.
so typically that's not as big a deal in the summertime because I wash
Mhm.
and wear, right?
Yeah.
But in the wintertime, I do blowouts and all that kind of stuff. So
Mhm.
today is my first time washing my own. I mean, I wash hair, but I'm
Yes.
saying washing my hair with the intent of blowing it out and all of that, going through that whole rigmarole. I
Wow.
haven't done that in, it's got to be 15 years for real, for real.
Really?
Yes. So I'm gonna take some before pictures and after pictures because I want to see what happens. And if it
Yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna share it with some of my sisters if I like it. If I don't, I'm gonna still share it. Um but it'll have a different connotation. We'll see. We're gonna play this
Hilarious.
out though, because I really do, I love committing to something
Yeah.
um that is a teachable moment that can do something in me different
Mhm.
than what I've experienced before. And
Yeah.
I think this is one of those things. So we're gonna
Yeah.
see how it goes. Yeah.
But you have a texture of hair that is versatile, right? Like you can wear it curly if you wanted to and then blow it out. So does that help or
It definitely helps. Blowouts are different. So everybody has, pros and cons that they feel about their hair, right? So
yeah.
I love my hair. I'm not gonna denigrate my hair, but
Mhm.
when I blow my hair out, it is very full and bushy.
Mhm.
So to get it to lay um, in a blowout style
Mhm.
without coming out of shape is a challenge.
Oh,
So
got it.
that's the
Okay.
part that's the challenge. Like the
Okay.
curly is not an issue, but if
Yeah.
I want it to really lay, then I
Mhm.
usually go get somebody to lay it down.
The layer. Okay, right? Got it.
So we're gonna try to lay it down today and see how it
Okay.
goes.
Well,
Yeah.
that's gonna be fun. I look forward
Yeah.
to seeing how that turns out.
I'm
Yeah.
excited about the journey.
Yeah.
And to reteach myself how to do my own hair. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
first of all, it can save me some coins. Second of all,
Mhm.
I should know how to do my own hair to whatever I want to do with it. So
Yeah.
I want to learn. So
Got it.
relearn.
Okay.
So
Love
yeah.
that.
Yeah. So that was not even my real talk conversation, but I sure appreciate it. I wanted to know in this second part of our real talk segment,
Mhm.
um, what is something, I just did it. I just answered my question. I can't believe that. Okay.
Okay.
What is something that you are admittedly not great at right now, but
Mhm.
you are currently in the practice of it? Like, can you think of anything that you are working on because, you're not perfect at it, you're not, great at it, but you're working on it?
Huh. I feel like all of my examples go back to what's happening in my life right now, but it is what it is.
Mhm.
Um, so being a counselor in training is definitely something that I am learning how to be comfortable with and definitely practicing because when you go from all the academic and the scholastic piece of it where you're learning all the content but then you're applying it, there's a learning curve associated with that and just comes with experience and just getting comfort with myself and just using the skills that I've learned and the techniques and that kind of stuff. So that takes practice. So that's something that I'm honestly still learning and practicing right now, just being an effective counselor. Yeah.
I love that. I love
Mhm.
that. Um, I, I, what came to mind immediately, and I'll probably reference this again later in the episode,
Mhm.
but the fact that most medical fields, and I would reckon the psychological field as well, they
Mhm.
call it a practice for a
Yeah.
reason, like
Yes.
it's not like, you got it down pat. You really are
Mm-mm.
working on it, figuring it out. What
Mhm.
works, you do more of. What
Yeah.
doesn't work, you do less of. So
Yes.
it is a practice. And
Mhm.
then from my side of things, one thing I can personally relate to is we call yoga a practice because
Mm.
you are really just, you're never the master of it all. You're
Yeah.
always working on you and working on your poses and working on your meditative practice. And so I love the word practice.
Yeah.
So I already told you I answered the question for myself and without realizing it, how connected
Mhm,
it was because I'm practicing my, doing my own hair again
mhm,
these days. And so I'm working on that. I love this word practice and wanted to make it our topic for today because of so many reasons. I'll dig into them a little bit, but I'm just going to go ahead and ease our way into our deep dive. I
mhm.
think as we get closer to, 100 episodes and thousands of downloads, I think we're going to come up with each segment is going to have its nice little splash page or intro. I feel that coming on. So,
I know. We gotta
um,
get somebody to help us with that
yeah,
too.
I got you. I got you. I know some people.
Okay.
So we're gonna work on that. But anyway, this is our deep dive segment. And in our deep dive segment, we just want to expound on a topic that maybe we've talked about in Real Women Sister Circles or something that's on our head and heart right now. And we just kind of dig into it, talk to each other on a deep level, ask each other questions, and hopefully give each other some takeaways. And we hope that you are engaging with us and we're going to give you a way, an avenue in a second that you can share your feedback with us. So we would love for you to dig with us. So, sister, the topic today is practice
Mhm.
makes progress.
Yeah, and not perfect. I love that. Yes.
Practice makes progress instead
Yes.
of perfect
Yes.
because some of us categorize ourselves as perfectionists,
Mhm.
and I don't anymore. I could have at one
Yeah.
point in time been unsatisfied with everything because it wasn't perfect, and not
Yeah.
starting something because it wasn't perfect at the start. Like, what? So, why would it be perfect at the start?
Yeah.
And so releasing myself from that in this new year, I really wanted to bring up this idea of practice so that we can normalize and embrace the idea that we're not supposed to be perfect at everything.
Mhm.
And practice allows us to enjoy the journey of the progress that we make.
Mhm.
So, you ready to dig in?
I'm ready to dig
Yay.
in.
Okay. So for me, I will say because I have been um, described or considered myself both and described as and considered myself a perfectionist,
Mhm.
I would have to say that the goal of practice has been to get perfect, to get to a point of mastery.
Mhm.
And so I first like to start and ask you, do you or have you ever considered yourself a perfectionist? And how do you feel about practice? What does the word practice say to you when you think of practice?
I definitely have been a perfectionist and still have perfectionistic ways about myself that I am working on dismantling, I will say, and just figuring out what they're associated with and tied to. But the example that comes to mind is when I used to dance,
Mm,
because there was a lot of practice associated with being a dancer. And I concluded that I don't like to practice. I want to get from seeing the dance the first time and having it down pat and not going through. So I have an issue with the process.
mhm,
That's what I'm noticing about myself. Like I don't like the in between. I want to either be there or not. And so that in and of itself is not realistic. So therein lies my struggle of going through
mhm.
processes. But yeah, so there I have a love-hate relationship with practice because of my impatience. I want to just get there already.
Mhm, mhm.
Mhm.
Amen to the amen.
Yeah.
Because the idea of practice, and I think about I was never a big sports person when I was in school. I
Mhm.
tried track, JV track for a little while. And I won my in practice, I won my first race. And the coach was like, "Oh my God, we got a star. Let's put her out." And then I did a meet and I did not win and I did not place. And the coach was like, "Oh, that was a one-time thing." And so, so, so it was all downhill from there. So I scooted on over to the chorus room at this because they met at the same time, and I've been singing in at school ever since after that.
Mhm.
So, but I do know about sports how important practice is, right?
Yeah,
And in practice, the goal is to that you're not always doing exactly full out what you would do on the court or on the field, or you know, you sometimes work on certain skills to just
yeah.
get you better at certain skills. And
Mhm.
so what I'm trying to do in at this time in my life is to get better at certain skills,
Mhm.
because I believe that certain skills are going to add to the whole of my life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's good, yeah.
So, for example, I'm starting this beginning farmers program where I get to learn how to garden
Mhm.
and farm. And that's just a little something I'm going to be practicing all year long. That's
Mhm.
going to feed my big goal of having acres and acres of land and being able to farm on it and source it.
Yeah.
Um, you mentioned dance as an idea, and can you give me an idea of like what is one thing that you would have to repeat that wasn't necessarily the entire recital or the entire performance, but something that you would practice in one? And I'm, I have a point to this, but
Yeah.
what is some piece of it that you would have to practice in order to get better at the whole?
So one piece is stretching, right? So
Mm,
it's not even the dance routine itself, it's just being flexible and agile enough to do the dance. So that's one piece that we used to have to do, and just exercising to build up the endurance. Because if we have like a 6-minute dance, it sounds simple, but when you are constantly exerting energy for 6 minutes in different movements, that can work. That's a lot. And if you don't practice, if you don't prepare your body, eating well, that kind of stuff, then you won't be able to execute the dance, effectively. And so that's some of the stuff that we used to have to do, or even just like 1-8 count of the dance, like 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, like just perfecting 1-8 count at a time instead of looking at the whole thing. Like that requires like a process, just to
mhm.
do that instead of focusing on the whole thing. Sometimes we would spend the whole rehearsal just on the first 8 or 16 counts. So it's that kind of stuff where it's just like, oh, okay, I just want to be done already. But
Mhm.
when you look at how much is involved in getting to a recital or getting to the day of the performance, it's
That's
those little pieces.
That's
Mhm.
good. I don't
Yeah.
know why you made me think of Karate Kid when the when his teacher was saying just wax on, wax off.
That's right.
You're like, what the heck you got me
Right.
doing?
And it feels so trivial. Like this is minute. This What does this have to do with anything? But then when you put it all together, you see the importance of just doing just that.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Absolutely. I bring that up and would really love for all of our listeners and watchers to think about what are some tiny steps, some atomic habits, some
mhm,
things that we can do to get better. Because oftentimes we get overwhelmed with the big idea or the big
mhm,
dream or where we will be there when this happens. Well, what are some little things that we can continually do and get better at that would allow us to practice and get strengthened, and so that we can add to and contribute more to whatever that big idea is. And so I love the idea of reframing like what I'm doing. It's not trivial, it's not
mhm.
little, it's adding to the whole, but
Yeah,
it's also not so overwhelming that I can't do it today. Like this is something I can do today,
today.
and it will contribute even if I don't see it right away. It will contribute
Yeah.
to what I got going on. I love
Mhm,
that. So
mhm.
I found a couple of things, sister, that I think is worth noting about practice,
Okay.
and why it's important. And I'll share a couple of thoughts and get your thoughts on them. basically found, and I am recycling this information, but I don't remember exactly where I got it from. So Google and go. Um, but practice is important to ensure we get better at anything, of course, to develop our skills and improve our performance. But I thought that it was interesting that they said it helps you access information quickly. So when you practice, it helps you access whatever you're trying to access. Your brain is more quickly to go there. So for example, those the wax on, wax off, like before, as soon as the sensei was like, he automatically knew what to do because he had been practicing it so much, that you get to it comes to you quicker because practice makes it sort of a no-brainer for you. And then it also talked about reducing cognitive load, that when you practice over and over again, it becomes automatic for you. Like if you think about the driving routes that we take on a daily basis, we do those without even thinking
Very
anymore.
true.
Like
Yeah.
literally you can almost kind of wake up and you're there and you're like,
Yeah.
I did not think about
Wasn't paying attention. Right.
at all that I
Right.
had to make. But that comes from practice, right? Even when driving, we're teaching my son how to drive now, and he's so nervous and so cognizant of everything. And I compare that to having driven for 30 years now. I'm like just wheeling it,
Yeah.
and so it really does lighten the load mentally on you, right?
Yeah.
The last thing I'll say about that kind of mental stuff, it builds muscle memory. So it's scientific that your body remembers whatever you do over and over again. I just think God is real because of how intricately created we are. Like
Yeah.
we are just amazingly created. And so our body, our brain speaks to our cells, and our cells have thinking capacity wherein they can remember and retain and hold on to information. And so some things become innate and automatic because we practice them. And so I'm wondering, have you experienced that? Does that resonate with you when it comes to whether it's physically or mentally, just being able to lighten your cognitive load and access information quickly?
Yeah, I appreciate these tools and strategies and just different perspectives about practicing, because it's helping me, like it's speaking to me even now as I was talking about with counseling, being a counselor in training, and thinking about what practicum and internship 1 and 2, those 3 semesters that we have to go through before graduating. It is essentially us building that muscle. Like there are certain counseling skills that we have to use, like for example, just reflecting, being able to listen to someone and repeat back in a way that makes them know that we're listening and understanding. Like that in and of itself is a valuable tool. And sometimes we can take it for granted as counselors, because it's like, well, we got to get to the tools, but not necessarily, because some people just want to be heard and want to be know that they're understood and listened to. So there are like a sheet that they give us for basic counseling skills that we need to practice. And so it just makes me think about some of them have become second nature for me now, because I've been practicing, and when we have class, we go over it and that kind of stuff. So yeah, this is helpful for me just to understand that the little things that I am doing is helping, to increase my skills and my abilities. So yeah.
Absolutely. And I love that example because having walked this journey with you, knowing, especially even if you've been following the podcast, that you had a level of angst about getting started with the practicum, right?
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like I'm imposing the word fear because I don't know if you used it, but the fear of the unknown. Just
Yeah.
I don't know what it's going to be like, and so practicums
Right, right.
you
In
the
the word.
opportunity. This is a wonderful topic.
Yeah.
Gives you the opportunity to practice so that, and here's one of the other items that I found so that it builds confidence.
Yeah.
You know, after a while, it's not the fear of the unknown. Like every person is different, every experience and encounter is going to
Mhm,
be different, but you have these tools because you practiced using
mhm.
several different things in several different scenarios. So you feel
Yeah.
more confident that you have what you need to navigate whatever the situation. So I love that example
Mhm.
for you. That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So, I'll just say that without practice, one of the things that I thought was really important from this article that I read is that you can lose the skills that you've built,
Hmm.
and the less you practice, the faster your skills fade. And I'm
Wow.
wondering, right? I'm wondering if you can relate to that. I'll say, as a yogi, there was a period of time that I just needed a break. And it was honestly, it was just because work was so much for me, um, that I couldn't do anything besides work and then come home and rest as much as I could before
Mhm.
work started up again. And so it was very much not a part of my life during a small season,
Mhm.
and coming back to it, like, ooh, you said that stretching for flexibility's sake is,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was like, ooh, because I'm a active yogi, right? So
Yeah.
I love all the power classes and the fire
Mhm.
flows and all of
Mhm.
that stuff. And people would come to my classes and be like, "Ah."
Right?
And so for me, I was like, I have not been to a power class yet since I've gotten started again. I've only gone
Wow.
to restorative, slow flow classes that allow
Yeah.
me to stretch and breathe and meditate because I
Yeah.
needed to ease my way back into it.
Mhm.
And it's just because I haven't done it in a while.
Mhm.
So I can relate this concept of without practice, you can lose skills you've built, or just your confidence in it, or your
Mhm.
desire to do it, or you need to ease into it.
Mhm.
Does that resonate with you at all? Losing some skills?
Yes, it's so funny because relating it back to dance, because I just had this realized, actualized in when I went to, for homecoming, going back with the dance team and reliving those moments and some of the sideline routines and stuff like that. And so I haven't danced in a long time, probably 7, 8 years, like consistently,
Mhm.
and learned routines and had to perform or anything. So it's been a while. And so going back, I hadn't practiced. And so we did have one night of practice, which was needed. And so I was like, oh, I got to go through this over and over again. So it didn't come as easily as it did back in the day when I used to do it consistently. So, and I could just see how certain movements I didn't have the ability to do anymore. So I had to modify things and some of the movements. So yeah, I agree that if you don't practice on a consistent basis, then you lose some of those skills and confidence. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Okay,
Mhm.
so here's where the rubber meets the road for me, and almost done with this topic, but let me tell it. I'm trying to get better at practicing and not being a perfectionist.
Yeah.
But then because of how I'm built, it is possible for me to become obsessive about practicing. What am I,
Yeah.
you
Got
know,
it. I can see that. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
to figure out, like, to get, and I'll put it this way. I can get down on myself because I
Mhm.
am not being consistent enough with
Yeah.
practicing whatever it might be, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Which it defeats the purpose for me of practice. Like,
Mhm.
practice is not mastery, it is not perfection. So it is the need for it to be consistent if it's something that you're really striving toward, and so you want to build your confidence, all the things we just said. You want to,
Mhm.
you want muscle memory, you want to lighten your cognitive load, so that's why it's important. But
Yeah.
there's also this flip side of seeing practice the wrong way, where
Mm.
we can obsess over it or be really self-critical or anxious if we are not doing it or not doing it the right way, and
Yes.
disappointed, beating ourselves up for not achieving certain, measurements that we give ourselves. So
Mhm.
I just want to throw out there that we could we could idolize practice or put
Yes.
practice on a pedestal instead of perfection, and then we back where we started. Any thoughts
Mhm.
about that?
Yes, and it's so funny that we're going to talk about this in the next episode, so I won't get too far into it. But for me, my work has been trying to get deeper and seeing what is my obsession with the finish line. Like, what is
Mhm,
my obsession with wanting to perfect something? And so
mhm.
I'm uncovering what all of that is associated with and attached to. So for me, it's a value conversation for me, like what I'm making it mean about me if I don't perfect it. Like, so it's
I
more
like that.
of, yeah, so we're gonna get into that in the next
Ooh,
episode. So yeah, y'all stay tuned. but
y'all
but
stay
yeah, because
tuned.
I kept going around that, and like you said, the self-critical and just really judgmental of myself when I'm not performing or when I'm not perfecting something. And so that's been really tearing me up and causing a lot of internal conflict. So it's just like, okay, what is going on here? So
Mhm.
getting deeper and finding what is this really all about? What am I making this mean about me?
I,
So that's
I
that's what's helping me.
I love the idea of asking myself some questions
Yeah,
about why this is happening. Why am I
yeah,
feeling this way?
hmm,
Because I get to dig deep, excavate, and
hmm,
figure out what the source of it is.
yeah,
And it doesn't always come immediately, but
mm-mm,
to know that in and of itself, feeling guilty about anything is
hmm,
does not serve us, right?
yeah,
So what is behind that maybe could alleviate that guilt for me is really the goal
hmm,
of that
yeah,
conversation you just had. I love that. I
hmm,
think this is really important because practice. I think the last thing I want to say about the negative side of it is that over practice can lead to burnout, right?
yes, uh-huh,
They even say when you work out that you're supposed to have a rest day.
yeah,
You're supposed to
hmm,
you work on your arms, the next day you work on your legs, and
hmm,
you do cardio, and then the next day you give yourself a rest before you start the process all over again, because burnout is possible. You can do too much. And,
hmm,
some of us have been, we feel like we've been expected to do too much and overexert ourselves, but then we impose it on ourselves sometimes.
hmm, hmm.
So practicing in a healthy way allows us the opportunity to do and be better at whatever we're striving toward, while at the same time not putting it on a pedestal and idolizing it and overdoing it.
Mhm,
That's a real delicate balance, right?
mhm,
So my last question about this is, how do you resolve that balance for yourself? Like, what are you doing? What are you telling yourself? How are you actualizing a balance between getting better at something, not feeling guilty about not being perfect at it, but not overdoing it? What are you doing within yourself or even out in the world to help with that balance?
yeah, so it's part of the what I was saying as far as just really getting in there to figure out what's the source of this drive and this need to be so overly critical or get to the finish line. So that's a part of it for me, like exploring journaling, asking myself some questions, tapping into like what am I feeling and getting out like my wheel of emotions. What am I feeling? And then that helps me to figure out what's going on. And then just talking through it with my sisters, talking through it in therapy, and just getting it out of me. That helps also. And talking to like my site supervisor and just utilizing all the resources and support systems that I have. And then, just talking to myself, like it's both, and like getting the external support, but also having that quiet time with myself and then talking to myself. So it's a process of just um not finding that balance. Yeah.
I love
Mhm.
that. Both
Yeah.
the internal process and then some of the things that you do outwardly.
Yeah.
I I'm going to say um, because sometimes the answer to that why is elusive. Like it's, trying
Mhm.
to find it is elusive.
Yeah.
So while we're in that on that journey of digging and asking questions and journaling, all those things,
Mhm.
I am just telling myself every day, I'm giving myself grace.
Yeah.
Girl, I am giving myself grace. So in this moment, we're not gonna do that. We're giving ourselves grace.
Oh, I know.
When it starts creeping up on me, I'm like, you know what? There are certain things that I've done recently. I've like made some mistakes. I'll give one small example. I'll send a newsletter out for
Mhm.
real women, and it'll have a mistake in it, or it'll
Yeah.
have a link that won't work. Nope,
Mhm.
we're not feeling bad. We're gonna
Right.
give ourselves some grace, and we're gonna
Uh,
send out a correction. That's what we
yep,
about to do.
that's it.
And it has released me so much from just some icky feelings. I just
Mhm.
don't. I I want to do and feel. I want to do things that I love. I want things that I love around me, and I want to have loving feelings as much as possible. I
Mhm.
know I'm going to have negative feelings. I'm not trying to avoid them. I am not in denial. They will creep up. They will just happen. I will
Mhm.
get hurt and all of those things.
Mhm.
But I'm not going to create those for myself.
Right.
And then if I have any control over what, and I do, over how I respond and what I end up doing after, very
Mhm.
shortly after I feel those things or
Mhm.
experience them, I'm doing my darndest to give myself grace.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
You
I
know, what
really,
I hear in that is a tool that we use in counseling is when you have a thought, and instead of wallowing in that thought, you develop alternative thinking. So it's like,
mhm,
okay, my thought is not that I'm going to beat myself up for making a mistake or overlooking something, but I'm going to focus on the alternative thought of, okay, well, I'm giving myself grace. That happened. So let me send out something else. And that helps you to move forward, and it helps you to shift your moods and how you feel about a thing too, and how you feel about yourself. Yeah, because sometimes we get stuck in that original thought and don't allow ourselves to pivot into an alternative thought. So yeah.
I love that. And
Mhm.
just knowing that that's an option,
Yeah,
because some of us think what I'm thinking and feeling right now is all that's
is
available
it.
to me, you
Right,
know?
right.
And
Mhm.
so to know that alternative thinking is an option, what else could I be thinking or feeling right now?
Mhm.
Asking ourselves that opens a whole nother avenue and world to us. So,
Absolutely. Yeah,
yeah,
I love that.
so
Mhm.
good. This has been great. Thank you so much
Yay.
for
Yes, I
delving
love
into
this.
practice makes progress. It's just
Yes, it does. Let's
yeah,
take that perfection off of it. Yeah.
absolutely, y'all. So we
Mhm.
really do want to know what you think about this topic. We would love to know what's your relationship to practice
Mhm.
and perfectionism, and what are some ways that you have leaned into it, or if you have leaned in too much and fallen all into the sea of practice and been burnt out and criticized yourself and all those things. We do want to hear from you. Would love for you to reach out to us so that we can hear your voice at speakpipe.com/real women real talk. If you just want to email us, we would love to hear from you by email at info@realwomenrock.org. You can let us know you don't want us to put your voice on. We won't. We'll just talk about your sharing. But we would absolutely love to hear from you and your thoughts. Please reach out to us. Thank you,
Mhm.
sister. That was
Yes, I love
wonderful.
that. Mhm.
And so, our third segment gives us the opportunity to put ourselves in someone else's shoes,
Mhm.
his, her, their shoes. And we give you a scenario, a current event, a trending question or topic, and just ask kind of what you think about it. What would you do putting yourself in their shoes? And so
Mhm.
I'm going to craft this one for you, sister. It's going to be a combination of a current event and a scenario. All right.
Okay, got it.
So I want you to imagine that you are a parishioner in a church
Mhm.
and you decide to attend baptism because you want to be encouraged by all the folks that are being baptized.
Mhm.
And you go, and one of the people being baptized that day And you find out it's not just being baptized, but being baptized that day and licensed as a preacher is the Denzel Washington.
Yeah, hilarious.
So, current event recently,
Yeah.
Denzel Washington not only became the award-winning actor that he already is, but he was
Mhm,
baptized and licensed as a preacher
mhm.
in my former denomination, Church of God in Christ.
Yeah.
So I know
Mhm,
he's attended there a lot. And so I'm wondering if you are there and now he's a preacher and he's, starting to preach and speak and maybe even pastor. Who knows what's in store for him, as he has already announced he's going to retire after doing just a handful more movies. He
mhm.
might have a church in his future. Who knows?
Mm.
As a parishioner, do you go to Denzel's church? Do you sit to hear him? Do you click on his church live? Do you hear him preach? What are you doing when it comes to Denzel?
So I probably would, just out of curiosity, because
Mhm,
I would be starstruck, honestly, because
mhm.
I'm a Denzel fan. I'm not the one that saw him as a sex symbol or anything like that. He wasn't like that to me. But I respected his craft and his talent, and so I would be curious just to see what this would look like with him being a minister in this area, in this vein. So yeah, I would go until his teaching or preaching no longer kind of align with me. Yeah,
Yeah,
I would go.
nice, nice. So definitely for me, curiosity factor.
Yeah.
I'm definitely tuning in to the first one that's publicized.
Uh,
If I was in the area, I maybe would physically go, depending upon the church. I'm not real big on mega churches now, so
mhm,
if it were small enough for me to engage, maybe.
yeah.
But if if they do a live stream, I'm there the first time. I just want to hear it.
Hmm. Hmm.
After that, because very honestly, because I am not personally not a big fan of a lot of what's going on in churches these days.
Yes. Hmm.
I probably wouldn't tune in after I get a feel for
Hmm.
I just a curiosity factor, and then I want to
Hmm.
be able to say, "Go, Denzel," or,
Right.
"Ooh, did y'all hear what he said?" You know,
I
I
thought
want
you
to
were
be
about to say go or no, Denzel.
right.
No, Denzel.
Go,
No.
no. One or the other,
Right.
just to
Right.
be able to say I saw it and experienced it.
Yeah.
And then I'm probably one and done with that one. I'm
Got
probably
it.
yeah.
I
So
would be interested to see if, he seems like he put a lot of practice and preparation
mhm.
into studying for or preparing for a role. So I would want to see if he put that same practice and study into, preparing to be a minister and giving a
Yeah,
sermon, just to see what that process would look like for him.
yeah. Especially I can say confidently that historically
Mhm.
Kojic preachers have not emphasized study.
Mm.
Not not so study the word
Yeah.
itself to
Uh-huh.
prepare for the sermon,
Uh-huh.
but like schooling or all of that kind of stuff that would help enhance the
Yeah.
study. And I would even say when it comes to studying to prepare a sermon,
Mm.
there's also more allow God to speak to me rather than me doing a whole, but that
Got it.
historically, I know
Right.
that there are outliers. I was an
Mhm.
outlier. I chose to
Mhm.
really study.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and that'll be very, very, very interesting to
Very
see how
interesting.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I love that he is what it says to me is whatever your passions are, whatever you feel like your purpose is,
Yeah.
just because you've been in one lane for a
Right.
long time does not mean you can't pivot or you don't get to
Mhm.
pivot. He's gonna
Yeah.
do it looks like, at least another thing that is on his heart to do. I don't know if it's all
Mhm.
the things, but
Right.
he's going to make sure he does the next thing that's on his heart to do.
Mhm.
I respect that fully.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a beautiful thing.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Well, thank you, ma'am. We would love to know what y'all think about actor Denzel. And what would you do? Are you attending his church? Are you listening to his sermon? Let us know by going to speakpipe.com/real women real talk, or email us at uh, info at realwomenrock.org. We'd love to hear it. This has
Mhm.
been a great episode.
Yes, love the conversation.
Yes, we did that going into 2025. And so I got to get used to writing that
I
now, and
know,
oh,
right?
all the things.
Uh-huh.
So as we move into our last segment, our spiritual nugget, where we just try to share a closing thought that would hopefully inspire or encourage you, give you something to think about. Um, Sister, does anything come up for you as it relates to anything we talked about or beyond that?
I think what's coming up for me is what you introduced in the beginning is practice makes progress, and giving ourselves space to reframe how we think about things, as
Mhm,
it relates to practice, being a perfectionist, all that. Like really digging into and exploring what we've made it mean in the past and what it means for us now. And just giving ourselves grace as we're going through life, and
mhm,
yeah, all of this accomplishing and all this stuff. Like just relax a little bit. Just give
mhm,
yourself a break and be kind, to yourself more. So that's
mhm.
what I would offer.
I am definitely a grace case.
Mhm.
I love that. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Y'all just take that in,
Mhm.
that practice is not about perfection, and that just the fact that we are here gives us an opportunity to keep working at this thing, whatever it is for us.
Mhm.
Thank y'all so much for joining us. This has been a great episode. We are now moving into 2025. I think we're moving in a strong direction. I hope that everything that you intend and desire just really comes to fruition for you in this new year. We would love to experience the wonderfulness that is you by having you join us in our sister circles. Our sister circles meet virtually as well as in person, and you have the opportunity to share and connect with us wherever you live in the world in those virtual sister circles. We have one coming up the third Saturday of every month. And so check us out at realwomenrock.org to find out more information about that. We also have the opportunity for you to really connect with us in a deeper way by becoming an all access member. We have exciting things planned for every woman that connects with us, but especially our all access members. Not only are you helping us start and sustain sister circles across the country and abroad, but we pour back into each other by connecting in other ways outside of just the general sister circles. And so if you want more information, go to realwomenrock.org. We would love to connect with you this year. That
Yes.
is it. That is all, sister. Thank you so much for
Yay.
this episode with me.
Thank you.
All right. Y'all have a wonderful day. See you in the next episode.
Bye, y'all.